Oh yeah.
and I had two choices that were presented to me. One was a colonoscopy, which you can't you have to take a day off of work.
Right.
They clean everything out and then they stick a camera up your butt.
I've
And
heard.
there was another option where you poop in a box. And the poop in the box option is only good for 3 years. The camera up the butt is good for 15 years. But I chose the poop in the box option because the other one would take a long time to schedule. And if they find something in the box option, then you have to get the other one anyway.
Right.
So it was like, okay, well, as you know, Ben, I am always afraid of something happening with my health insurance. And so I'd hate to have one of those scheduled and then have the insurance go away.
Right.
Whereas the box option I can get right away. And that is the American healthcare system in a nutshell.
Your numbers are a little different than what I was told. The last time I went to the doctor, I was given the option to schedule a colonoscopy, which they told me is good for 10 years, or it's not a poop in a box option. It is a poop in your toilet on a little piece of tissue paper, stick a small, what looks like a pipe cleaner in it, get a sample, and return it to the lab, and they check that.
Yeah, that's
And
probably the same thing.
that's the option I went with, and that is one of the more disgusting things I've ever done.
Oh, I've
And
done plenty more
the
disgusting things.
same thing. If they find something, they schedule you for a colonoscopy. If they don't find anything, you have to do the same thing every year. So until they
Every
do find
year.
something, yes, every year. So I just gotta
Wow.
remember next. When was that? I think that was in the winter. I think that was like around November. So I gotta
Yeah, I've
remember
never I've
in
never done
November
anything.
I'll do that.
I've never done either one of those. It's been a long time since I've been to the doctor.
Yeah.
So
Did
so
you go
yeah.
because you have a question about your health insurance, or is
Mm,
there without
well,
getting
no, no.
too informational?
I mean, I went because I hadn't gone in a while, and I'm turning 50 in 10 days, and I was
Yeah,
like, okay, well,
it's a
I
good
should
reason.
probably get a checkup. Um, I'm supposed to go and get blood work done. Also, I didn't do that yet.
Right.
You have to go, but here's the thing, right? You have to go after you've been fasting for 8 hours, and they open at 8. So I figured that I could just one morning just go right when I wake up,
Yeah.
and as long as I haven't eaten anything, I
I
should be
was
fine.
again different. I don't know why the American healthcare system. I was told that coffee was okay. Like the last
Yes,
time.
coffee,
Okay, good.
black coffee is okay.
Black coffee, yeah, no cream or sugar. But the last time I needed to get blood work, I for whatever reason thought instead of my normal black coffee this morning, I'm gonna have a glass of juice, and they they told me I had to come back and not have a glass of juice beforehand because
Yep,
it affected my blood sugar. So
yep, that's exactly right, Ben. I don't know if you can hear this, but Edward is barking up a storm upstairs.
I I cannot hear it, but I'm wondering if the podcast people will.
The podcast people might be able to. Yeah, something's going on with that word. Who knows? So I've been watching Resident Alien on
I've heard,
Peacock.
yeah, based on the comic book. I've heard of the
Yeah,
TV show, but I have not seen it. How is it?
I find it very good. There's some writing that I really enjoy that they have going on,
Alan
and
Tudyk
of
is in that,
course,
right?
yes, Alan
Okay.
Tudyk is the titular Resident Alien, and I find a little bit of a harmony with his character.
That seems to
Um,
have flown under the radar. I remember when it was like announced, but I haven't heard anything about it. Like, how many seasons is it?
yeah, I think they're on their third. There will be a third season
Really?
on Peacock. There are 2 seasons already. I'm almost to the end of season 1 at this
Before
point.
before we go any further, I just have to mention what I'm seeing. So I have the curtain open here in the theater, and it looks out onto one of these loft apartments across the
Uh-huh.
street here. Big windows. All I can see.
Those.
Big
Ben froze
windows.
for a second.
Yeah, I know. I saw that I froze. So big windows.
Yeah.
All I can see is basically like a stairway going up. Normally they have the blinds closed, but today there's a kid. He looks like he's in his late teens, early 20s, wearing headphones, practicing moonwalking. It looks like he's practicing
All right.
moonwalking, and I'm like, yeah, you go. He sits down. He gets up. He moonwalks. He goes back. He sits down. That is
I
that
wonder
is
if
what
he's
I'm currently
recording
looking
himself moonwalking.
at. Like he's a TikToker, a dirty TikToker.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering. What I'm thinking is he's recording himself moonwalking so that he can watch it back and see how he's doing. It could be wrong. Could be absolutely be wrong.
I learned the proper way to moonwalk.
Now, Ben,
and
I know.
our delay, because my
Yeah,
internet
see-
went out. Our delay is
Yep.
going to be crap.
That's exactly what it's funny. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So this
Hooray!
will be fun for those of you who are used to Ben and Paul during the pandemic. This should be par for the course. Okay,
I'll
on
go.
3.
Yeah. I'll count.
Uh,
1, 2, 3. Yeah. Boo.
yeah, that's a lot of delay. I'm sure. My turn.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. For me, it was.
Oh man, Ben,
This should be
that's
fun.
crazy. Okay, well, yeah, but we're okay because we're used to it. Now
Yeah.
that we know that it's happening, we can compensate.
So, Resident Alien.
Yeah, a very good show. I highly recommend it. Very
out.
funny, and that's
Have you read the comic?
it's. No, I haven't. I haven't read the comic.
Now he's
What I was going to
singing.
say though is it may
Sorry.
actually wait a second. And it turns out that it's a Michael Jackson impersonator. It's possible.
Yeah, it's
That
possible.
was big business for a while.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of Michael Jackson impersonators. We went to actually. I think the only time I've seen them is when he was still alive. I remember there being one in like Expo '86 when my family went up to Vancouver for the Great Expedition of 1986.
Vancouver, Canada?
Yeah, Vancouver, BC.
Okay. So let's talk about impersonators. You got number 1 with a bullet, probably Elvis.
Elvis.
Then probably Michael Jackson, maybe number 2. Ooh,
Presidents,
Abe Lincoln.
though.
Abe
I mean,
Lincoln still.
Yeah, like any,
Yeah.
like insert any president.
Yeah, yep. And probably Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah. Who else? Like,
Now I
yeah,
I
I'm just
will
trying to
say,
think of
like,
any
I think
like impersonators you would see on the Hollywood Walk of Fame or like in Times Square.
now I feel like drag is a separate thing. In my opinion, maybe a higher art form, even so you're not because they're not just impersonating the person, but I guess Elvis impersonators are kind of it's weird. Elvis impersonators are kind of like same-sex drag in a way. Because it's flashy costumes, big show, and all that sort of thing. Oh, Elvis drag kings. I'm sure there are some. And they're probably wonderful. But the big news of the day, at least for me,
Yeah.
is, as you know, Jennifer got into a car accident. She she filed a claim with our insurance company. We have received the money,
Oh,
and so now comes getting a different car. And I won't say new car because it's not,
new
you
for
know,
you.
new for us. And I'm the hard part with this is, of course, that the car that she wants and the car that I want are often, a little different.
Right.
But I'm not going to say the name of the business. We both finally decided on a car that we saw online. It was a
CarMax.
Mazda 3,
Those are nice
which I don't,
cars.
yeah, it was a Mazda 3. And
Like a
then on the way
five-door
up there,
hatchback.
we also saw that they had a uh, Mini Cooper, which not great cars as far as how they drive and stuff like that, but we've always liked them.
Yeah. The only person I have talked to at length who's owned a Mini Cooper, you're a friend of mine, Chris Dietz.
Hmm.
One of his biggest complaints was that, yeah, it's a fun little car. He actually thought it drove really well. It's like a little sports car.
Yeah,
However, repairs and parts are super expensive.
yeah. So that's something that we didn't have to worry about either of the cars because we went to a place. I'm not going to say their name, but we went to a place across the river. Uh, and the way that Jennifer described it is probably the best way I could imagine it described. She said simply, they're not selling cars.
They're selling experiences.
No, no, like there's something else going on at that location.
Ah, I
They're doing
gotcha.
something.
It's a
Selling
front?
cars is not it. Hey, I'm not saying one way or the other what it is exactly, but
If you want a
here's
Mazda 3 or a giant bag of blow, come down to Eddie's car
here's the
lot.
deal. The Mazda 3, right, that we wanted to see
Yeah.
was behind like a bunch of other cars. Like the cars are like, here's a car, here's another car, and then here's a car here, here's a car here. Like literally touching each other. They're all stacked in.
Yeah.
When we said that we were interested in it, they said, okay, that's a cash only car. So we're gonna need a cat. We don't finance that one. We're gonna need a cashier's check for it. Also, you can't test drive it.
Okay, that's like
Um,
the biggest red flag right there.
yeah, all these things, and we're like, okay. And we started looking up the reviews, and it's like um 400 reviews, right? 350 five-star reviews. We went here, they were really nice. We got our mom a car, blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
then 51-star reviews, and all of them are like, I don't know where you guys went to, but these people did not sell me a car at all. They told me that I couldn't test drive it. When I said that I was interested in this car, they said to come back in 2 hours. Just like all this crazy, crazy stuff. So we did not get a car there. Um,
Probably a smart idea.
yeah, and we went to another place, and this is true. We went to another place, and when the guy saw us come up, he went into the office of the place and
Locked the
didn't come
door.
out. So
That guy didn't
so
want
we're
to sell
trying
any cars.
we're trying again tomorrow. But it was really strange, a very odd experience.
How are you? Are you just going to different lots, or are you looking up cars online?
We're looking up cars online, and that's one of the things, is that this place had a lot of cars listed online.
Yeah.
And the thing that we figured is, I guess that's I mean, if you are in fact not selling cars but want people to think you are, having a bunch of them listed on your site is one thing. Now, the one deal is I was like, this is a very small lot. Maybe they have to put them there, and maybe they do a little bit of a driving thing to get people out. But for us, it was not going to work
Yeah.
out for that one. So we're going to look at other things.
When I bought my car, I used a very well-known website to filter a search, and actually,
Mhm.
a Mazda 3 would have been on that list, but I wanted a two-door car, not a four-door car. The threes I don't think come in two doors. But yeah, the place where I saw the car that I've actually eventually ended up buying was not a lot at all. It was actually like an auto brokerage. So what I do is I scheduled to view the car. So I emailed them like, I'm interested in driving this Volkswagen you have. And they're like, okay, it's kind of sketchy, but again, I'm like, well, might as well have that experience. They're like, meet me at this like auto shop on Elliott Bay Road or Elliott Avenue, and I'll have the car there for you. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I roll up, and yeah, there's the car just sitting in the parking lot. And it turns out that this brokerage is they store their cars on the pier, or like on not on the pier, but on the port in a lot at the Port of Seattle. And when they schedule a drive, they bring the car out from the.
It's like valet, except for, I mean, that's what this place should have done rather than shoving all those cars, because there's nowhere to park in their lot.
Now this kid is just dancing. I want to turn the camera around and show you, but I want to respect his privacy as well.
Yeah, well, thank you for respecting his privacy.
Funny.
That
he can probably see me looking at him. Yeah,
works. So let me think. I saw. I think it's on HBO Max. David Byrne's American Utopia. Yeah, did you see it?
I have seen it. I've seen it twice, actually.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
I especially like the cymbal player, who does a bunch of other stuff. Well, actually, I mean, the two dancers are great also.
They're also backup singers. They didn't just dance.
Yeah, yes. But the reason I say the two dancers is because they are excellent at dancing.
Right.
The singing is also very good, what they do. But yeah, I really liked it. I really liked it a lot.
He was talking about, there's one moment of that show that I remember where he was talking about I think it's like African vocalization music that influenced the Talking Heads song I Zimbra, where David Byrne is talking about this method of singing, and he just utters a bunch of like vocal nonsense for maybe 20-30 seconds. And then he says, and that goes on for 45 minutes.
And then at the end, okay, so that song that he's talking about, it's not African. It's Dadaist.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because that's why I thought of it, because I thought it was like, I thought Izimbra was influenced by African music, but no, you're right. It is Dadaist.
And at the end of the thing, if you watch it all the way through, right, at the end, that thing that goes on for 45 minutes, they start playing it. The audio of it starts playing, and there's a shot of a kid who's listening to it. It's pretty cool. But the main thing is, David Byrne, great, awesome, good singer, very interested human being. Saw where they were doing say his name, and they said Emmett Till, and I immediately remembered my gaffe from the last one. And here's the thing, I could have ignored the fact that I did a gaffe on the last one, and no one would have cared, no one else listens, but now they'll hear when I said that Emmett Till was from the South. Again, I can't apologize enough, so I'm going to do it one more time.
The world forgives
talking
you,
about
Paul.
stuff I don't know, Ben, is a trademark of this show, but sometimes it's in poorer taste than usual. Let's talk about something that I do know about.
Oh God.
Uh, Spicy mustard Doritos. It's a new flavor
I
that they
have
have here
not.
in the Midwest.
I have not heard of spicy mustard Doritos. I'm a
They're
little
good.
afraid.
They're very yellow. Doritos already kind of yellow, but orange because of the powder.
Right.
These Doritos are very. I mean,
The
you can tell
the
the
cheese
yellowness
dust.
is just there. The mustard dust in this case.
How is it? How is the spiciness? Is it like flaming hot Cheeto
It's
spicy?
Here's the thing. It's a mustard spicy, right? So there's a different kind of quality to it.
Yeah.
Um, if if they were to make horseradish Doritos, wasabi Doritos, whatever, it wouldn't be that far off. It's sort of that kind of a sort of a clear your sinuses spicy,
Okay.
kind of. So it's pretty good.
There was what's that brand of pretzel, like Rolo or something?
Rolled
Raleigh?
gold.
Rolled Gold. For a while, I think it was Rolled Gold. They had a flavored pretzel. It was the pretzel shape, not the sticks, that had mustard dust on them,
Ah,
and it just like if you just like pulverized and dried yellow mustard
yep.
and shook it on these pretzels, it was the most delicious thing ever. I would almost eat an entire bag in one sitting, and I don't
Now
think they
see,
make them anymore.
here's what I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of the Snyder's of Hanover, uh, honey mustard nuggets
Mm.
or bits. They have another like bits and pieces that have been smashed. I like those as well. But yeah, it's also got that dust on it, but it's also got a sweetness to it because of the honey part of it.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Not a fan of the
Um,
honey ingredient. I like honey in general, but it gets put into too many things. There is a flavor of Theraflu that I like that they used to make, just regular old lemon flavor. But now they don't make regular old lemon flavor. It's got to be honey lemon flavor, and it's
mm,
not the same.
do you know of a store called Nautical Bowls?
Never heard of it.
Is there one in Seattle? Okay. They're like the acai bowl things, it's sort of a
Okay.
smoothie, but you eat it with a spoon. It's kind of frozen maybe sometimes. Anyway, there's one that opened up in Edwardsville. Oh, speaking of which, Ben, before I forget, this summer there is a burger place called the High Point that is world famous in St. Louis. And Edwardsville, Illinois, where I live, is getting their own High Point burger place.
If you could compare
Jennifer,
their
yes.
burgers to a burger that you could get in Seattle, what would it most closely resemble?
Geez, I don't know.
Like, is it more on the Kid Valley side or more on the Dick's side or like
I
eight
want to say
pound
maybe. So,
burger?
so what kind of burgers are smash burgers?
I want to say smash burgers as a technique and not is like
Right. No, that's what I mean. Yeah, like, is Dick's a smashed burger type of burger, or is it?
I don't
Because
believe
that's
so. I
kind
think
of
the patties come preformed from the
yeah.
factory.
I'm feeling like. I mean, there was what was the there was a place called the Burger. Is it like the Burger Lab or the? Do you know what I'm talking about? There was a place in Seattle that was like an experimental burger place. Uh, can't remember now. But anyway, that's sort of what it is. Sort of like smashed
Okay.
burgers.
Is it sort of like
Not
upper?
the
Is it
company
like
Smash Burger.
upper
High end,
scale sort of thing? High end?
higher
Yeah.
end, yeah. Maybe like Five Guys, maybe a little bit like Five Guys, but not exactly like Five
Okay.
Guys.
There was
Five Guys is
a
not the right one, actually. Now that I think
there
of it.
was a joint up the street. I probably talked about this before. It's Big Little Burger,
Huh.
and apparently they were just like on this corner up here at 12th and Pike for years, and I only
Hmm.
started going there like a few months ago, and finally realized that I actually like the burger. I just whenever I'm at Annex, I default to just walking down the street to Dick's. But finally
Yeah.
was like, oh, this place is pretty good. It's kind of pricey. You're gonna walk out of
Yeah.
there with burgers and fries for like $10, $12. And then they went out of business. They're like, this location is
Aw.
closed forever. And I'm like, just when I found you.
No. Yeah.
But it was more of a smash burger type. It was not perfectly round burgers, very like thick in the center kind of deal.
Yeah.
And they had truffle fries, which was their like you couldn't get any other any other flavor of fries. They seasoned their fries with truffle salt, and that was like their deal.
Yeah. It was good though. You liked it.
I did like it. I enjoyed it. It took a I had a bit of a complaint about the user experience because you go up to the counter. Okay, so it's a cavernous. It's not decorated at all. It's like you're walking into a basement, a cement basement to buy that has a burger bar, right? So
Yeah.
it's very cavernous. It's very echoey because there's no art on the walls. The walls are just like painted with like
Are there
hipster
tables?
metal tables, metal chairs. So if anybody moves a chair along the floor, it makes a loud sound. And they are blasting music. So you have loud music that is bouncing across the walls, and they have to call your name when your burger is ready. I sat as close to the counter as possible, and I could still barely hear the person call my order.
I believe that Jennifer, Betty, and I were at a burger place in Alton, Illinois that is probably almost the exact same experience.
It's a very
It's
specific burger aesthetic.
Yeah. Alton there are a couple of burger places that are really good in Alton. Alton is really interesting. It's by the Mississippi River, right? So it does
Yeah.
have a waterfront, quote unquote, kind of thing, but it's also kind of a depressed city. So there isn't a
Riverfront.
lot. Yeah, riverfront. That's right.
That city should go see a therapist.
Yeah, no doubt. Grafton suffered from flooding. It's a place where we went and saw the 4th of July fireworks at one point in time. They're pretty impressive. We
Was
might
that
go up there
the
again sometime.
Mississippi River flooding?
Yep, exactly. I knew a guy who lived there, and it was one of the situations where his family had to move in with his cousins, or he had to move in with his cousins for a little while, and someone was like, "Oh, that must have been horrible." He's like, "No, for me it was great. My parents hated it. For me, I had got to hang out with my cousins all the time and all that. So it was very
I
much
didn't have to
a,
make food. We had dinner at 6 every night.
exactly. Um,
I'm going to show
Betty
you what
had
I'm
her.
seeing. He's not there, so I feel fine showing this to you. But this is my
Okay.
view. Okay, you can't see it anyway. But out that
Yeah.
window is just this kid was just dancing, and now he's not there. I think he saw me looking at him
Uh-oh.
and got shot.
So, Betty's group had a percussion performance that they did.
I
school?
saw Jennifer posted a picture or a video on Facebook yesterday.
Oh
today
yeah,
that I didn't
that was
watch
of
the
them doing
video.
Manamana. But there's another one that I don't think she recorded called "Thank You," and in it they're playing the so like the marimba. You're
I
very
do know
familiar
marimba.
with it.
Yes.
Aaron Jorgensen, your friend and mine, very accomplished marimba player.
Yep.
There's a metal version kind of called the Vibes that you might know of. They had a performance where they were playing like metal segments of a mallet instrument with bows,
Mm.
and it makes a really weird eerie sound. It's very cool. She dropped her bow, and her mom and I both noticed that instead of panicking, she just finished the song with one bow, which is the right thing to do, and it was pretty cool. And it's
Yeah.
not what I would have done. I would have been like, "Oh no, I did knock the
Is
whole
that
thing over,
is
whatever."
set the place on fire, ran out,
Yeah,
never looked
exactly.
back, changed my name.
We all need to leave. Um, hey, speaking of we all need to leave, it's a bad segue. It's not going to make any sense.
It's not the end of the show yet, Paul. You can't get out that easy.
I had my psychological test.
Oh, really?
Did I mention it on pod or did I talk to you about it afterwards?
You know what?
Last
I
time, do you
think
remember?
you mentioned it. You mentioned you were going to be doing it on the podcast, and maybe more
Yeah.
details off the record.
So one of the things was that Jennifer also has to fill out some forms, and I mailed one of her forms in because there were two meetings that I had. After the first meeting, gave me a form home, had Jennifer fill it out, mailed it in. And then I go to my second one, which is about 3 hours, filling out more forms. I had to do some intelligence testing as well, which was
Really?
interesting. Um, and I get done, and they hand me two forms, and one of them was the form that Jennifer already filled out. And they said, I said, oh, well, I already filled that one out. And they're like, well, I don't know. They just wanted to fill it out again, I guess. I don't know. So
Okay.
I went, and she's like, but if she already filled it out, then don't worry about it, I guess. So filled it out, filled out the second one, mailed the second one in, and then called the office and said, hey, we mailed that second one in. And she said, okay, what about the one that we asked you to fill out that you had already filled out? And I was like, well, um, sorry, but I sent that one already. She's like, oh, well, we never received it.
This is all part of the exam, Paul.
And well, this is the thing is I'm thinking in my head, aha. And I say, well, I do remember calling your office and saying that you had received it. And she said, well, okay, the only other thing is that maybe the doctor already got it. I'll give you a call. And so again, if this were a test, and then she calls me and says, oh, I just wanted to let you know that we found that form. To which I replied, what form? And then she was like, the one that you called it. I'm like, oh, right. Okay, great. So they're now going to do the thing, and then they're going to give me my results. One of the things that I noticed is that, one of the big things is the idea that, I am most likely, on the spectrum. And I had previously been diagnosed with adult ADHD, and maybe that diagnosis is incorrect. One of the tests that they sent back was an ADHD diagnosis thing, and I'm still clicking a lot of boxes on that.
Yeah.
So there's talk of there being a comorbidity and all that, plus the DSM-6. Who knows what that's going to be like? But anyway, all of this to say, when I went to see my doctor on the 4th, I mentioned that they would be getting this diagnosis thing, and she was like, "Well, it's probably Asperger's," and I'm like, "Well, we don't use that term anymore." And she's like, "Yeah, I know we don't." And this she did. She was like, "I know we don't use that term anymore, but amongst ourselves." I guess she meant other doctors. She was a doctor, not a psychologist, medical doctor. We still used it because
We're
it
slow to
makes,
adapt change.
well, and not only that, but she was like, that they like, and then she said, whenever you say autistic, people think of someone with Down syndrome. To which I was like,
Do they?
except I think things are changing now. I think that is slowly becoming less of a thing. She's like, I guess so. But it's something that made me think. There are people who are autistic who have a lot more problems communicating, a lot more problems with socialization, things like that. I have a a thought that may be incorrect, but I'm just examining my life as a when I was a kid and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that in dealing with people who had those issues, right? I remember specifically being taught by the adults around me that they were different people because I didn't think of them in that way. I thought of them as being a kid like me. And
Right.
so that's the question of, how much of this, like if no one had ever intervened like that, what would have happened? What would my life have been like? Like because I there was a kid on the bus that I remember this very distinctly. I got yelled at for messing with him, but I was just talking to him. In my mind, we were having a conversation. This is when I was in, I think, first grade. And I am telling you, Ben Lawrence, as an adult, Paul Goody, that I was simply having a conversation with that kid. Like I was not like, what's wrong with you? I didn't get a weird vibe off of him or anything like that. I was
He was
speaking
just
to him
another
as
kid. Yeah.
I would speak to another child. Yeah, and to this day, when I remember it, that is what was going on with me and this kid. So, I do also have memories of like difficulties I had as a kid, like with people making jokes and like people, everyone seeming to know what to do except for me, right? Stuff like that, like those sort of feelings. And so, in a weird way, I think that it's possible that when we talk about there being a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And it's people think of it as a line, but it's not. It's like a 3D spectrum thing and all that. That maybe in the future, the the concept of, developmental disabilities, things like that, will be different. And we won't necessarily, like, we'll think of what happened in the past and how we categorize people. And just like now when we say we don't use Asperger's anymore, part of the reason for it isn't isn't because it's not useful in describing someone necessarily, but because it also undercuts the concept of those other, like the thing that the doctor said to me. Well, we do that because when people say that, they usually think of this kind of kid, that's doing that type of kid a
Yeah.
disservice by making a separation where there shouldn't be one.
It's
Like,
interesting because you do have this one word to cover a whole range, i.e., a spectrum of abilities and ways to think of of your mental your neurodivergency.
yeah,
Because there's I have a very good friend of mine who has an autistic kid, but this kid's gonna need help living the rest of his life. Right?
yep,
He's never going to be independent. He does not have Down syndrome. Actually, a number of I understand Down syndrome people can live independently. This
yep,
this particular child, who is now I think 18, cannot.
yep. I mean, there are kids who have no communication skill, right?
Yeah,
Um, and and later on, they find different ways to open up that possibility and stuff like that. And so the idea that everyone is in this large bucket's the wrong term, but you know what I mean, like So I'm saying there could be varying degrees of ability within that in different areas, right? Also is interesting. And like on the form that I filled out, there's a levels 1 through 3, and one is um, you know, may need some accommodation, may need a lot of accommodation, and will always that last one, the idea that you'll always need accommodation and help, and a lot of it
Yeah.
is what they have is level 3 on this thing. So even within the sort of new more encompassing thing, there are still levels, right?
Right.
It's just that they don't use the term named after a Nazi anymore, which
Right.
I think is fine. I'm okay with that. But a lot of people actually built, identities about being an Aspie, quote unquote, that sort of thing. And
I
that's
have not
why
heard that.
oh yeah, there's an Aspie's Guide to Life, things like that. It's hey, you have this thing, and let's
Nothing
wear it
wrong
as
with
a,
owning it. Yeah.
yeah. But there is something, I feel like there is something wrong about making it your whole identity. Just like if somebody's a gamer, right? The fact that you play a video game is not a problem. And the fact that you name yourself this, and hey, I'm a gamer, that's great.
Have you met Americans? Our hobbies and our political beliefs
Yep.
are our identities these days.
When you say I'm a gamer and you're not, that's when the problem happens.
Yeah.
You have not, the no true Scotsman thing.
It's
That
called
kind of,
gatekeeping.
yeah.
I'm the
I feel like
keymaster of the gatekeeping community.
I bet you never even watched Ghostbusters. um, Rick Moranis, huh? There's a guy who
He is a guy, yeah.
who really, I mean, the not doing movies anymore so that he could, be with his family and stuff is a big deal.
Yeah. I always get a kick out of whenever. So yeah, he did that. His wife passed away, so he quit acting to raise his children, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, what a great sacrifice he made. But he was privileged enough to do that.
Yeah.
Not
I
everybody
mean,
has those means.
yeah, that's a very good point, Ben. I Okay, look. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, Ben. Well, what we're. I was going to say, Ben and I are good people. Maybe we aren't, but us enough.
We try. We try at least.
What I thought you were going to say, and Ben, I don't know why I cast you in this light, because I don't think that you would actually do this at all. But I thought you were going to do this anyway. Yeah, his wife died, and so he quit acting to take care of his children, and that's great. What people don't often mention is that he killed his wife. That's what I thought you were going. I knew that wasn't the case. I thought that you were going to make that as a joke for some reason. Those of you who don't know, in the writing process, Ben and I, there are occasionally like jokes that we make that we would never put in a show because they're on an edge of taste that we know we aren't those people.
Right.
Sometimes right before we go on stage, it's decided that we're not going to do a certain thing, but we're better people for it.
Ruins the entire thing.
Yeah.
I actually, that kind of does sound like something I would say, because I do find myself going there sometimes, and not in a public forum, but maybe like talking with one other person. And more often than not, I am just met with like this blank stare and a person aghast at that I might say something so horrible, and then having to walk it back saying, never mind, I'm sorry.
It's because you're so nice, Ben, and that's not a bad thing. People have a good opinion of you, and sometimes they're like, did Ben really? So for those of you listening who don't know this already, I'm getting very close to the camera on the live stream. Ben actually moved my house for me when I went to Illinois. I broke up our performing duo to move to the Midwest, and Ben packed everything up for me. And I still, and it's one of those things where someone goes, "Well, you would have done the same thing for him." Ben knows
Would
me
I?
now. Now, after he's already done it,
Right.
I might. But at the time, if he would have been like, "Oh yeah, I could help you look up movers, Ben, if you want. I
Right.
could try to arrange something."
I'll
But
send an email to someone else and have them do it.
I'll tell you, if I had, obviously, if I had a lot of money, a lot of crazy things would happen. And this is because, as Jennifer noted, I am. Here's the thing. Uh, she feels as though I'm a sadist. I don't know if I am truly a sadist or if no, I think I am. The more I think about it, things that I think are funny sometimes are things that could hurt people, and that's it. I mean, that's really the thing. When we were talking about debrief, you remember this already. I thought it would be great if we. I was like, so I don't know how we would do it, but if we could get them into the theater and then radically change something about the outside world when they leave, like either in a they're in a thing that moves and they don't know about it, so they open up the door and suddenly they're in another place, something. And she's like, you're describing all these things that would break someone who has a tenuous grasp on reality. And I would think that someone who has a tenuous grasp on reality, you would empathize with them. And I said, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "Right." That was before we got, um, you know, into the Illinois thing. She knows
Yeah.
me very, very well now,
I
and
bet.
I use her sometimes as my conscience, as far as, "Hey, is this an okay thing if I
Right.
were to do this?" And there are lots of times where I make incorrect choices. Most recently, when talking about, she pointed out to me that the language that I use sometimes when I talk about, um, like, uh, we we have a next door neighbor, Evan, who talks to us sometimes, and one of the things he mentions is that, if the racism in the Republican Party were if they were able to get rid of it, right? If they could,
Easy as
and
that.
and I mean, the Southern strategy was something the Democrats were doing for a while, and they stopped. So it is possible that they could do it, because he said, people like my mom, and stuff like that would vote Republican. They align with all the other Republican values.
Right.
So that's something. And I said something to the effect of, as I think the Republican Party will do that as white people start dying off. As the Democratic, um as the Democrat, I was going to say Democratic process, and I was going to say, oh, it's actually a Republican, blah 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 blah. As the Republican voters, uh start shifting that messaging, that prosperity gospel, charismatic Christian side of the Republican Party will sort of wither off, and they will become more inclusive. And I was talking about how, uh, what we should do as the United States of America is sort of and the term I used when I was talking to Jennifer was a soft handoff from white people, uh, to the rest of the country. And she said, see, that's not good. You need to examine the words that you're doing,
Right.
because what we're looking for is, I mean, what you've said right there is kind of still white supremacy talking,
Yeah.
right? It's a us and them sort
You're
of thing.
making the
What
choice
we
to do, you know.
what we want is inclusion of everyone. Inclusion of everyone is going to put everyone on the level playing field, and the wording that you're using, it sounds like, again, us and them, not the way that you want to be speaking about your fellow Americans, which is a very good point, and something that I wasn't tracking. Huh.
It's hard sometimes. What are you hearing?
Someone's trimming the yard somewhere. So anyway, so that's again, I
You got your
can't.
yardar on?
Yeah, someone's mowing a yard out there. My dad. Uh, did, did someone touch the thermostat? What is that from? I guess Family Guy was one of them.
Oh,
There's something weird.
any show with a goofy dad has a thermostat
Yeah,
joke in it somewhere.
exactly. So yeah, that's my mustache is coming back. By the way, you see that?
Kinda. Yeah. You
It'll
got
be
going
it'll
a
be full on. So
little
so
Ted
two
Lasso
weeks
action going there.
kind of to grow it back, and I'm gonna have the right one pretty soon. Oh, I figured it out, by the way. It's all about finding lines. And so if I do this, I'm getting close to the camera. See this right here?
And he
This crease
smiles
here,
and he's showing his cheek lines, his
and
cheekbones.
then crease here. That is going to be how I make sure that my mustache is even. My mustache is going to be trimmed right at those creases, and I
Ah.
think it's going to work out. Um, I am going to let my hair grow out again. We'll see what happens.
For as long as it
Because
wants.
even though it's thinning a little bit here, and I do have
Yeah.
this sort of almost island of hair, um, as it gets
It's a
longer,
peninsula,
they
Paul.
can
It's still a
find stuff.
peninsula.
Yeah, that's what I like to see. That's what I like to see, a peninsula. Yeah. Oh, pan the camera. Here we go. See, it's attached right there. Yep.
I love
Um,
meanisms.
hold it right. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Hold it right there.
Yeah. That's still one of my favorite things is you and me doing John McKenna impressions for our own amusement. Uh, it was great. So I think I've mentioned to you already, the Tri Cities possibly
Right,
a
or
uh,
Spokane.
a place. Yeah, because I was talking to somebody. Again, Virginia is where a lot of the work is, but
Big
um,
federal government workforce over in Virginia.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's yeah. A lot of the places where there are, but I mean, the other thing is it's totally. I mean, Jennifer and and Betty have talked about it. We're in no hurry to kick the kid out, as some families are.
Once
So we
they
want to
turn 18,
move.
they're gone.
We want to move someplace where all three of us will have a good time. And here's the thing: if it weren't for Indiana's politics, right?
Yeah,
Indianapolis was a fine city when we went and visited.
yeah.
Uh, it's close.
Many cities
You
are
know,
fine
that,
cities if you just visit for a little bit.
yeah,
But
but
once you really get to know them,
yeah,
you start to see the cracks.
and that's the thing is that Washington State, because of Seattle and all that, is going to stay, pretty good, I think.
Although
For
I don't know if
for
you heard, our governor has announced he's not seeking re-election, so we will
Oh
have
no,
a gubernatorial race this in 2024. Jay Inslee no longer, who's been in office I think for like 14 years. So we're gonna have another election. I don't think it's gonna be close because the east side of the state, even though larger by land mass, is much smaller by population.
yeah. So yeah, we'll see. Do you know who is running?
Nobody has announced, but our Attorney General Bob Ferguson has announced he is beginning an exploratory committee, and a lot of people thought Bob Ferguson was gonna run for governor.
How is he as Attorney General?
He's progressive, so yeah, a lot of he's a natural successor to Inslee.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll see. Again,
Succession, fun show.
hey, yeah, exactly. Um, Man, I gotta say that Culkin guy, pretty good, pretty exciting actor
a
guy.
friend a friend of mine on Twitter has a Kendall Roy impression, and it goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I thought, well, a good Roman Roy impression. I'm gonna swear here. A good Roman Roy impression
Oh,
is yes, no, I don't know, fuck you.
yeah, yeah, that's good. Good. Um, yeah, I am looking forward to Silo, which is coming out on Peacock. I think it's no, it's Apple. It's Apple. And it's today. I think today's the first time.
Then
And
I'll be
I've
able to
been
watch it.
watching Mrs. Davis. I think I've told you about that, which
Mrs.
is
Davis.
the new
Mrs.
Damon
Davis.
Lindelof,
Lindelof.
Lindelof, the new yeah, his thing,
Damon
and it's
L.
good. I like it a lot.
I've been watching the new Bob Odenkirk TV show Lucky Hank.
Oh, how's that going?
It's good. It's good. He plays an English professor, a very
Hmm.
misanthropic English professor.
That sounds right up his alley,
Yeah.
which is good. And Vince, what's his name? Is it Vince? Who's the guy who did Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul?
Vince Gilligan.
Yeah, what's his new deal? Isn't he doing something?
He, as far as I know, he has an agreement to do a new show, and the last I heard, Ray Seahorn is going to be starring in it.
Who's Ray Seahorn? Can you remind
Ray
me?
Seahorn, oh, you remember her from Better Call Saul, where she played Bob
Oh,
Odenkirk's love interest.
yeah.
What's her name in the show? Of course, how can I not remember? Kim. She played Kim
Kim.
in Better Call
Kim
Saul.
Wexler.
Kim Wexler.
Yeah, I did it. Hey, and speaking of doing it,
We did
we did
it.
another podcast, Ben.
Paul Goody, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you, even though there's like a 3-second delay between in our transmission.
As normal, we kind of fell into a rhythm and we stopped caring, and it didn't matter.
Yep.
We stopped caring, and it didn't matter. The GudeLaurance story.
Or also, you said something earlier. Stuff I don't know. The
Yeah.
GudeLaurance podcast.
Well, Ben,
Oh, we
how's
forgot
it
our new
happening?
catchphrase. How's it happening? I'm just gonna say that
We'll remember it eventually. We always do it at the
Yeah.
end,
at the end.
which is great. All right,
Anyway.
Ben. I will talk to you later. Thanks again.
Keep it wrong,
always
Paul.
a pleasure. Keep it wrong until I talk to you later.
Bye.
Next time. Bye.
Till next time.
Now I'm
Bye.
gonna